All right, guys, we're on chapter 6 of Ragged Dick, up Broadway to Madison Square. So he's still probably walking with Frank, his new friend that he found on the street, talking to his uncle. So Frank is similar in age to Ragged Dick, but they're both just walking along the street. So Dick is pretty much his tour guide. And yeah, so now chapter 6, up Broadway to Madison Square. As the boys pursued their way up Broadway, Dick pointed out the prominent hotels and places of amusement. Frank was particularly struck with the imposing fronts of the St. Nicholas and Metropolitan hotels, the former of white marble, the latter of a subdued brown hue, but not less elegant in its internal appointments. He was not surprised to be informed that each of these splendid structures cost, with the furnishing, not far from $1,000,000. At 8th Street, Dick turned to the right and pointed out the Clinton Hall building, now occupied by the Mercantile Library, comprising at that time over 50,000 volumes. The Clinton Hall building. I'm just curious of the Clinton Hall building because, the Clinton name is very popular in America. So I want to do my research if it has any relation to the Clintons, right? A little farther on, they came to a large building standing by itself just at the opening of 3rd and 4th Avenues and with one side on each. "What is that building?" asked Frank. "That's the Cooper Institute," said Dick, "built by Mr. Cooper, a particular friend of mine. Me and Pete Cooper used to go to school together." "What is there inside?" asked Frank. "There's a hall for public meetings and lectures in the basement, and a reading room and a picture gallery up above," said Dick. Directly opposite Cooper Institute, Frank saw a very large building of brick, covering about an acre of ground. "Is that a hotel?" he asked. "No," said Dick. "That's the Bible house. It's a place where they make Bibles. I was in there once, saw a big pile of them." "Did you ever read the Bible?" asked Frank, who had some idea of the neglected state of Dick's education. "No," said Dick. "I've heard it's a good book, but I never read one. I ain't much on reading. It makes my head ache." "I suppose you can't read very fast." "I can read the little words pretty well, but the big ones is what stick me. If I lived in the city, you might come every evening to me, and I would teach you." "Would you take so much trouble about me?" asked Dick earnestly. "Certainly I should like to see you getting on. There isn't much chance of that if you don't know how to read and write." "You're a good feller," said Dick gratefully. "I wish you did live in New York." "I'd like to know something. Whereabouts do you live?" "About 50 miles off, in a town on the left bank of the Hudson. I wish you'd come up and see me sometime. I would like to have you come and stop 2 or 3 days." "Honor bright? I don't understand. Do you mean it?" asked Dick incredulously. So Dick asks so Dick asks him, "Honor bright." But Frank says, "I don't understand what you mean by that." So he's pretty much saying, like, "Do you mean it?" asked Dick incredulously. "Of course I do. Why shouldn't I?" says Frank. "What would your folks say if they knowed you'd ask a bootblack to visit you?" "You are none the worse for being a bootblack, Dick." "I ain't used to genteel society," said Dick. "I should know how to behave. Or I shouldn't know how to behave." "Then I could show you. You won't be a bootblack all your life, you know." "No," said Dick. I'm going to I'm going to knock off when I get to be 90." "Before that, I hope," said Frank, smiling. "I really wish I could get something else to do," said Dick soberly. "I like to be an office boy and learn business and grow up respectable." "Why don't you try and see if you can't get a place, Dick?" "Would it take Ragged Dick?" "But you ain't ragged now, Dick." "No," said Dick. "I look a little better than I did in my Washington coat and Louis Napoleon pants, but if I got in an office, they wouldn't give me more than $3 a week, and I couldn't live respectable on that." "No, I suppose not," said Frank doubtfully. "But you would get more at the end of the first year." "Yes," said Dick, "but by that time I'd be nothing but skin and bones." Frank laughed. "That reminds me," he said, "of the story of an Irishman who out of economy thought he would teach his horse to feed on shavings. So he provided the horse with a pair of green spectacles which made the shavings look edible. But unfortunately, just as the horse got learned, he up and died." "The host must have been a fine specimen of architecture by the time he got through," remarked Dick. "Whereabouts are we now?" asked Frank as they emerged from 4th Avenue into Union Square. "That is Union Park," said Dick, pointing to a beautiful enclosure in the center of which was a pond with a fountain playing. "Is that the statue of Jennifer? Is that the statue of General Washington?" asked Frank, pointing to a bronze equestrian statue on a granite pedestal. "Yes," said Dick. "He's growed some since he was president. If he'd been as tall as that when he fit in the Revolution, he'd have walloped the Britishers some, I reckon." Frank looked up at the statue, which is 14.5 feet high, and acknowledged the justice of Dick's remark. How about the coat, Dick? He asked. Would it fit you? Well, it might be rather loose, said Dick. I am much more than 10 feet high with my boots off. No, I should think not, said Frank, smiling. You're a queer boy, Dick. Well, I've been brought up queer. Some boys is born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Victoria's boys is born with a gold spoon, set with diamonds, but gold and silver was scarce when I was born, and mine was pewter. Perhaps the gold and silver would come by and by, Dick. Did you ever hear of Dick Whittington? Never did. Was he a ragged Dick? I shouldn't wonder if he was. At any rate, he was very poor when he was a boy, but he didn't stay so. Before he died, he became Lord Mayor of London. Did he? Asked Dick, looking interested. How did he do it? Why, you see, a rich merchant took pity on him and gave him a home in his own house, when he used to stay with the servants, being employed in little errands. Where he used to stay with the servants, being employed in little errands. One day the merchant noticed Dick picking up pins and needles that had been dropped, and asked him why he did it. Dick told him he was going to sell them when he got enough. The merchant was pleased with his saving disposition, and when soon after he was going to send a vessel to foreign parts, he told Dick he might send anything he pleased in it, and it should be sold to his advantage. Now Dick had nothing in the world but a kitten which had been given him a short time before. How much taxes did he have to pay on it? Asked Dick. Not very high, probably, but having only the kitten, he concluded to send it along. After sailing a good many months, during which the kitten grew up to be a strong cat, the ship touched at an island never before known, which happened to be infested with rats and mice to such an extent that they worried everybody's life out, and even ransacked the king's palace. To make a long story short, the captain, seeing how matters stood, brought Dick's cat ashore, and she soon made the rats and mice scatter. The king was highly delighted when he saw what havoc she made among the rats and mice, and resolved to have her at any price. She offered a great quantity of gold for her, or so he offered a great quantity of gold for her, which of course the captain was glad to accept. It was faithfully carried back to Dick and laid the foundation of his fortune. He prospered as he grew up, and in time became a very rich merchant, respected by all, and before he died was elected Lord Mayor of London. That's a pretty good story, said Dick, but I don't believe all the cats in New York will ever make me mayor. No, probably not, but you may rise in some other way. A good many distinguished men have once been poor boys. There's hope for you, Dick, if you'll try. Nobody ever talked to me so before, said Dick. They just called me Ragged Dick and told me I'd grow up to be a vagabond. Boys who are better educated need not be surprised at Dick's blunders and come to the gallows. This is a vagabond. They just called me Ragged Dick and told me I'd grow up to be a vagabond and come to the gallows. Telling you so won't make it turn out so, Dick. If you'll try to be somebody and grow up into a respectable member of society, you will. You may not become rich. It isn't everybody that becomes rich, but you can obtain a good position and be respected. I'll try, said Dick earnestly. I needn't have been Ragged Dick so long if I hadn't spent my money in going to the theater and treating boys to oyster stews and betting money on cards and such like. Have you lost money that way? Lots of it. One time I saved up $5 to buy me a new rig out. Cost my best suit with all in rags. Or because my best suit was all in rags, when Limpy Jim wanted me to play a game with him. Limpy Jim, said Frank interrogatively. Yes, he's a lame. That's what makes us call him Limpy Jim. I suppose you lost. Yes, I lost every penny and had to sleep out because I hadn't a cent to pay for lodging. 'Twas an awful cold night and I got most froze. Wouldn't Jim let you have any of the money he had won to pay for a lodging? No, I asked him for 5 cents, but he wouldn't let me have it. Can you get lodging for 5 cents? Asked Frank in surprise. Yes, said Dick, but not at the Fifth Avenue Hotel. That's it right out there. It's hard to read the way fucking Dick talks, but you guys get the point.